Resentment. Man, this is something that I deal with in my partner on a regular basis and hear it from a lot of men. Resentful wives, resentful women, resentful moms. It's almost a stereotype at this point that moms are constantly resentful and dads are constantly defensive about that resentment. And it's super normal. And yet also everybody kind of acknowledges that it's toxic, right? If mom ain't happy, nobody's happy. Happy wife, happy life, right? Like we know that resentment is just a killer of both relationships, of people's well-beings. Kids feel it. It's no good. And women don't want it. Women don't want to be resentful, right? Men hate it. We hate our wives being resentful. All we want to do is make them happy. But what do? It seems like an impossible situation. And so this was after sleep. This was like another number one thing that comes up with men is like, how do I deal with my wife's resentment about I'm just never doing enough. I can just never seem to help as much as she needs. You are listening to Dedicated Joe, the new dad's guide on the upending and transformational experience of becoming a father. Needs. So the first thing I want to say is there is a solution. You do not have to be stuck in this resentment. Women don't need to be stuck in it, and men can't control your wife or change her feelings, but there's a lot of things we can do to proactively try to reduce this resentment. So I'm going to talk about how I do it. It's been very effective. Doesn't eliminate it all the way, and I still mess it up all the time, but there are proactive things we can do. So first thing we got to do is acknowledge that this is systemic. This is not anyone's fault. It's not her fault. It's not your fault, at least not entirely not her, ours. We all play a role, but we were set up by systems to fail. We were not taught relationship skills. We were not taught how to be equal partners in a household. Our parents weren't taught this. Their parents weren't taught this. They don't teach us in school. Nobody knows how to do this. And we've got way too much separation from our friends and family when it takes a village. Babies were designed to be raised by a village. Humans have the most dependent offspring of any mammal, right? Our babies need us for like years, versus what horses can like walk, right? As they come out of the womb. So evolution created this dependency for babies so that we would stick together and create tribes, and that's how we survived as tribal animals. But now we're all separate in these little houses, and we're supposed to be raising our babies on our own while working and while dealing with all this stuff, and that's not how it was meant to be. So it ends up taking an emotional toll, especially on relationships. So she can do her personal work. You can do your personal work. Those are both key things. But if we don't fix the systems or like really address them, it doesn't matter how much personal work you do, it's going to come back. So here's the tools I'm going to give you to end your wife's resentment, or at least remove it all on your own without ever sacrificing your own self, right? This is not about making it all about her all the time and never having your own needs met, because that's going to lead to your own resentment. And it's not even what she wants either. So I'm going to help you just essentially rise out of being a frustrated victim and own that shit. All right. 3 major components to this system. The first one, and I think the most important one and the biggest cause of resentment, is division in household labor. I have a whole episode on this and how to fix this, but women continue to do 2.5 times the housework as men. That is more than double the housework as men. And this is women that are working the same hours as men, right? Are still overwhelmingly doing the housework. Now, this is easy for women to blame on men and say, men, you need to do your part more and you need to show up and this isn't fair. That is not completely untrue, but ultimately it's not our fault either, because we were never taught how to do housework. And women were taught that all the housework is their responsibility. So it's set up to fail so that women kind of just take on all this housework. Men don't even know it needs to be done. We don't know how to do it. Women don't want to teach us, but they want us to just do it. And we're set up to fail. So the only real solution I found for this is the fair play model of household management. I have a whole episode on this, as I said, so check it out. But, this is a system that you can create to help you learn how to be a full equal player in the household, and equally importantly, help your partner know that you are an equal partner and help her let go of the jobs and the chores and the tasks that you have so that she doesn't always think that it's her job. So it really wasn't just about me doing my share. I was actually already doing a lot of my share of the household. My wife just didn't believe I was. She just couldn't accept that I was. And so there was duplication. She would worry about it. She would redo things I did. And she was resentful of me, even though I believed I was putting a ton of work into the household. It wasn't as much as she needed concretely, like I wasn't doing my full fair share. And even though I was doing, she was worrying about anyway. So because the fair play system ends this duplication, it creates time and it creates space for what they call unicorn space, which is the things you love, the things that give you joy. For me, it's making costumes. I love making costumes. For my wife, she picked up calligraphy, right? Just this meditative thing. And that reduces resentment because you're doing things you love. It also create space for your friends and space for self-care for both people. The dad and the mom both need self-care time. They both need friend time, and they both need this unicorn space. And fair play allows you both to have that, so that if you want to go out with your friends and she's stuck at home with baby, recipe for resentment, right? But like, the way you do that is like, hey, I have this time for my friends tonight, but you have your time with your friends tomorrow night where I have baby. And, it's up to her to kind of make plans and do something. And so you're just very concretely and actively creating that self-care, friend, and unicorn space for both people in the relationship to keep that resentment from building, but while also making sure the whole household is covered. So fair play system, it takes about 6 hours to implement. So it's a time investment, but it is a game changer. And I'd say reduce the resentment in our relationship by like 90%. Like, so much of the resentment was here. So number 2 is date nights. Essentially investing in her in the relationship. I have a whole episode on keeping the spark alive after baby. And so there's a lot of tips and tricks here and there on how to make sure you keep that connection between you, and it doesn't just become you all about work and her all about baby, and when you're home all about baby all the time, and keep that spark alive. But the short version of this is you have a date night. You get a babysitter and you have a date night. We try for once a week. Now, we don't quite get once a week, but at least we try once a week. We get it 2 or 3 times a month, which is just dedicated personal time away from baby, where you put attention on her. And, and that requires getting babysitters, which is, I think, really number 3. Babysitters are so useful, not just for date night, but for lots of other purposes. I cannot believe how many families I meet and their baby's 1 or 18 months old, and they've never left the baby with a non-family member. Like, they've never hired a babysitter to come over and just watch the baby. Mom or dad has been stuck with that baby consistently for a year. And that's just not sustainable. We had our first babysitter at 3 weeks. As soon as my wife could walk, had a babysitter at the house and we were out on a date. And that taught our daughter to go to other people. It taught us the healthy separation and just allowed us to get out of the house. So, if I want to go out with my friends, I had to learn, I can't just do that. I have to talk to my wife about that. And if she says, no, I'm not willing to stand with the baby by myself, that's a recipe for resentment, because I'm like, but I want to go with my friends and you're here anyway. And like, you're not going to go out, but if like you could say, well, okay, you don't want to stay with the baby. That's okay. Let's hire a babysitter. I'm going to go with my friends. You can do whatever you want. And I will call and I will work and I will babysitter. And it's something a man can do. Find, organize, pay babysitters. I'll do a whole episode on babysitters, on how to find them, but mostly it's the will. Mostly it's the desire. You ask other parents whose sitters they have. We love this care.com service. We've never had a problem with care.com. We think they're amazing. You go on, you put a listing, you meet care providers that have great reviews, and leave your baby with one of them. Obviously, family members or neighbors or other friends with kids are great, but you just got to do it. You just got to decide, we're going to leave our kid with babysitters and have that free time. So now, whether it's with babysitters or whether it's on date night, in general, women need our attention, right? They thrive on a man's attention. They love attention on them. And man, is it so hard to remember that when I'm working and my baby needs all my attention, and there's these projects and there's problems in the world, and my attention is just like so everywhere. My phone, of course, constant distraction attention, really struggle with, phone. I'm tired. But that little bit of attention on her just goes such a long way. I mean, I tell you, they return it tenfold. You give her a little bit of attention, a little bit of love just on her, and it just like pours back on you. And so part of their resentment is that they just feel forgotten. They feel ignored. They feel like you're entitled to their labor and them doing all this stuff. And even though you're really busy working and also trying to help, if you're not giving her that love and attention, they feel kind of abandoned, even though you're not actively abandoning her. So the way to do that is attention. Sometimes I feel resentful myself that I have to go first on the attention. Like, hey, I'm struggling and I'm tired and I'm resentful. Why doesn't she put attention on me first? Right? Like I think about that periodically, more often than I like to admit. And what I always have to remember is, man, how awesome that I have the power to go first. That if all I have to do is get over that and put some attention on her, she will return it to me tenfold. Like, that's a powerful position. I don't have to just be waiting around for her to decide to give me attention before I'm okay or before the relationship is okay. I can actually go first, help light her up, and then that lights up the whole family. And finally, I'll end on yeses and nos. Women are conditioned to say yes to things that they don't want. They're conditioned, so I call it a false yes. They say yes, but they're actually no. Maybe they even say it like a no, like, well, I guess if you really want to, which as a freedom lover, I hear that as a yes. She said yes. She didn't say no. I'm out. I'm going to take that yes and run. She said yes. She can't complain. Very, very hard for women to say no. But if they say yes and they really didn't want to, they're going to be resentful. It's just a recipe for resentment. It's like, you mean no, you say yes equals resentment, and that will get you in the end. So even though I got the thing I wanted in the short run because she didn't say no, I pay for it way more than I want to in resentment. And so one of the things I've really had to learn, and of course she's done her own work on doing this, of not saying yes when she's a no, but she'll still say yeses that I can kind of feel her like, yes, do you really, yes, do you really want that? Even if it's something that benefits me and I really want her to say yes, I should never let her say yes if she's a no, because the resentment is toxic. It's not worth it. And this goes for you as well. I've had to struggle too with, I'm a yes person too. I want to say yes. And then I get resentful, then I take that on her, and then she's more resentful at me, and it skyrockets. So learning to say no, learning to set boundaries is really important, and learning to help her set boundaries, to point out that you don't want her saying yes when she's a no, and really digging for that what's underneath that, negotiating. Oftentimes there is a yes under there. You just have to meet a need for her. So willing to be like, okay, well, what would it take for you to be a full yes? You need to go out on yourself tomorrow night, or do you need, a trade-off? And then getting to that full yes is the key. So I hope this helps. Do not settle for a lot of resentment in your relationship. It doesn't have to be there. It is not inevitable. There's a lot of things you can do. So I hope these steps can help you reduce the resentment and have a much better relationship. Happy wife, happy life, happy baby, and stay